Peace is a really good place to start our conversation. So the second Sunday of Advent often kind of has that peace around it. The readings kind of have that flow to it from the lectionary.
Is there a theological or whatever you call it reason they were picked and they were picked in this order? Who determined?
There is no. This is the tradition I follow. Advent's such a nebulous thing.
I mean, if you Google it, you get pretty much certain themes. I just didn't know when the lectionary was created, who created it,
It's
and all
been
of that.
around for a long time. In fact, that's a great
What the
conversation.
rationale was.
That's a different subject, but the idea of a lectionary goes all the way back to the time of Christ. The synagogues at that time had daily readings that would follow through. This is what you read this time. For example, there's a famous scene in the New Testament where Jesus goes into a synagogue and they give him the scroll to read. It's the reading of the day. It's the lectionary.
Daily Bible
And
reading.
that's what it is, exactly what it is. And he reads it from Isaiah, and then he says, and today this has been fulfilled in your hearing. And they go, but he's just the carpenter's boy, So that's all that time period. So we've always been, there's been a group of people who've always kind of nourished and been caretakers of, if you want to read the scriptures, here's a way to read them in a calendar way. What most folk fall back on now is either a variation of the Revised Common Lectionary, which is kind of used by most liturgical traditions. I'm more older than that in my view. I take the Book of Common Prayer, has a lectionary in it. The problem is that's pretty much the same thing as the Revised Common Lectionary. I mean, that's how they make the Revised Common Lectionary, I think, is they look at the Book of Common Prayer and go, oh, that's it. Just throw out the Apocrypha readings. But
so today's peace, or this week will be peace.
So the themes flow from the readings for those Sundays.
Okay, that makes sense.
You'll see, like yesterday, I preached this very take your antidepressant before you read it. Psalm 80, that's the psalm for the day, and it's got these prophetic, you don't have to invent them, they're there. Son of Man, going to come and deliver, save us. It's this appeal for a Messiah. So prophecy is woven into just the psalm itself. And if you go to the other readings of the day, which we didn't cover, that have kind of a similar. Rick read another reading that was from yesterday, Isaiah 2. They'll beat their, so I'll get it straight, they'll beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. That's a prophetic issue, so that's where it comes from. So peace is the theme for today, or this week in our thinking. So when you think of peace, what do you think of? Misty, what do you think of with peace?
I think of, ultimately, when you think of peace, at this time of the year, you think of the Charlie Brown Christmas, and he comes out there and says,
so that's your first go-to is Charlie Brown?
Peace to all men, and the scripture that he gives and goodwill towards men. But then if you dig deeper, peace, I think at this time, the peace that I feel is completely different than that. And not that it's not a peaceful time. The holidays are a peaceful time, but
No, they're not. They're full of strife and turmoil.
perspective is how you look at
They just
it.
had someone saying that his childhood Christmas will have to have a fight to see who opens the presents.
That's all great. That's all great. But I don't know. I just have a different perspective of that. What do you guys think? What do you think?
Well, first off, the peanuts thing is classic because
It is.
my wife tells me that I'm Linus. I'm the guy where everybody's having a party, we're having a good time, there's music, and I'm dancing, and I go, but I'm going to quote scripture at you now. And that's Linus, that's me.
Did he let us stuck to Simon carry the blanket? Is that Linus?
I thought that was Linus, yeah.
Why are you being mean?
I was just looking for your blanket.
We all have our woobies.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I think for me this year, peace has not been as easy. I just feel like I haven't found searching for the rhythm that creates the peace in my life has been more of a challenge this year, just in general. So
So do you think that challenge for peace is because of what's happening in the world? What's happening in your world?
No, I feel like it's what's happening in the world generally. Like the consistents are no longer consistent. So
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 is
really searching scripture for like the
so is peace then a function of rhythm?
I think it can be.
Because you've taken me to a thought that I did not think we might go to. In fact, I never thought of it before. But maybe because I know a lot of folks who have no peace in their life. Right? They're just their whole life is wound up. Maybe it's because there's no rhythm to their life. And I find that
chaos.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
chaos breeds
How you do
conflict,
anything is how you do everything.
Mm-hmm.
which is desperately.
Yeah.
Well, I think of peace, obviously, as you've got the absence of conflict, if you want to think militarily, but I think we often confuse true peace with just calm, so to speak, whereas what's the old cliche you're saying, sometimes he calms the storm and sometimes he calms the child, is that peace can exist beyond the circumstances in a deeper sense of I just finished watching The Crown last night, season 4, and there's
Don't you just hate all those people?
it's really in line. I feel for a lot of them, but there's just this incredible closing scene. I don't want to give anything away, but it's just this picture of dysfunction and chaos from the backstory. The picture, it's a Christmas photo they're taking, and this beautiful silent night is playing in the background, and it's just this image, but the juxtaposition is the internal chaos that's really going on behind the scenes, and it's the illusion of peace because everyone's smiling and happy and stuff like that. And I don't know, I think there's just something so much deeper about peace, and we often substitute or settle for absence of conflict,
Right.
but don't really have peace.
And I think a lot of times we want, when you think of peace, when people think of peace, it's without all the turmoil and without all the trials. You think that's your peaceful place. But true inner peace is, number one, having peace with God and having that peace right in the middle of all those things. That's true peace. Is being
Inside out instead of outside
yes,
in.
when all this craziness of what's going on around us, all these ups and downs, you still find that peaceful place right in the middle of who God is. And I think that's the peace with God that I feel talking about peace at this point.
The longer I live with the Lord, though, the more I recognize kind of where you were at with the idea that, so the Lord does calm the storm, but He's also the one who sent the storm to begin with.
Right.
And I find that oftentimes I want to run to peace too quickly
Mm-hmm.
rather than dealing with why am I afraid of the storm?
Hmm.
What is going on inside of me
Right.
that I let the stuff going on out there affect what's happening in here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the same God who calms the storm is also the one who sent it. And if I'm serving Him, then peace should not be contingent upon what the storm
Right.
is doing to begin with.
Yeah.
So I wrestle with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I say that as if I had figured it all out. Far from figuring things out. The nature of peace is strange.
It definitely is. I think sometimes people feel like peace is just ignoring the chaos. Like if you think about the Christmas time, like the lights and the presents and all of the stuff, and so there's so many distractions, like ignoring what's really
Avoiding.
going on,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
avoiding those things. And I think those, the lights and the music, and like I think the secular way that we see Christmas can help distract us, where that true inner peace is when we're not distracted.
I think it's a good
Focus
word,
in.
distraction. It kind of blocks out the chaos,
Right.
but it's just another way of avoiding it. Or I think we kind of go into our caves. We go, well, I'm going to have my little, I need my Christmas tree here. I need my setting, my
Right.
surroundings, and I'm just going to hunker down.
But then
And
whenever, and that's what you were talking about, whenever, you do feel convicted or you do have these things come into your life, those are things we have to examine ourselves and deal with and let the Lord deal with in order to have that peace.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah, that we don't worship the tree and we don't get so enthralled with the lights and the gift giving that we forget what the true meaning is.
And so lots of folks this time of year, I mean, peace is a universal thing we should always be, not just at Christmas time, but
Right.
this time of year I think about people who are absent of that deep internal peace because Christmas does have so much heartache. It can come from loved ones who used to be with us who died and now they're not here, so suddenly at Christmas their traditions that they always did aren't present with us, or we remember hurt and pain, absence. The people get depressed, seasonal affective disorder, huge depressions at Christmas because I think the expectations that it's going to be awesome
Mm-hmm.
and then living up to those expectations are two different things altogether.
Well, you were talking about rhythm. I feel like I cut you off. What do you think, how do you think that plays into peace or not peace? And what did you mean by rhythm?
The rhythms of life. So if I can wake up in the morning and I know what I'm going to do, my mind is in order, my heart's already at peace. I don't have to go conjure something or start something. It's already there, it's laid out for me. I think order brings peace. And you can almost tell people's level of peace in their own personal life by the order, just the space they live in. Are things where they're supposed to be? Are clothes hung up? Simple things like that can go a long way to how much order and peace that people have in their lives. I think it's not 100% telltale.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Because sometimes chaos is divine and blessed. I mean,
Well, I think, I know myself, I can get so caught up in trying to create order and a rhythm that I get the blinders
There's a
on,
balance.
and
You gotta
any
have
kind
that.
of
Yeah, you've got to find that fine
curveball really throws me.
line.
see, I'm thinking about and you didn't cut me off, by the way, and if you did, I'm used to it. Shots fired.
How much peace is there in your life?
I bet his clothes aren't hung up.
Um,
I bet they are. I bet his shoes are like.
So,
I'm not wrong.
you mentioned the crown. That scene, I know exactly what you're talking about. When Princess Diana comes down and they take the shot, and there's so much turmoil in that family. And to them, the most important thing is presenting the forward appearance of peace and tranquility and family. But that's farther from the truth. What they did not need a photographer. What they needed was a counselor to sit down with them in a group setting and work through all their stuff. And I'm just wondering about, as people get together with Christmas this year, especially with COVID going on, and many people are disappointed in their Thanksgivings because they didn't have what they wanted for Thanksgiving. I think a lot of folks would do better rather than we're going to have an elf on the shelf this year, and we're going to do all the stuff that we always do and go Christmas caroling in the neighborhood or whatever you do. Maybe this is the year you throw all of that out the window and just work on your relationships. Have honest conversations. Maybe go see a counselor or a therapist or contact your pastor or something like that to have someone work through those issues as a family, because this could be the year to take, because that's what we need. We need to actually work on the things rather than present the appearance out there.
Well, and I just had the thought with this whole pandemic, and you've got the battles over what to do and what not to do, and then whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or masks or all these deals, I think in a lot of people, it's shaken up something in them, and I think we're really, all of us, there's certain things we're wanting to hold on to because it's been taken away from us. And I think the illusion is if I could just get something back, I could force peace again. I'd feel good again. And so, you know, if I could make Christmas better than Thanksgiving or whatever, as opposed to like you're saying, maybe I need to call a time out and be still and find out what's really going on maybe inside that's, why is this stressing me out so
Well,
much?
familiar. We're so wanting to clutch on to things that are familiar that whenever we do in this time that we're in,
And
forces us to
disorder or
yeah,
storms are not necessarily a bad thing,
right.
but it's that we fight against them so often.
Because we're creatures of habit.
I think sometimes we're also delusional. Like I'll think back to like a memory with my family, and I remember it completely different than someone else in my family, and so I think that we put up those sometimes false memories, or sometimes we want to remember it this way, and so we want to recreate it that way, rather than having those real, true conversation of this is what it was. This is, you know, and just working past what we wanted it to be and then what it truly is.
And truly moving forward. You know, I've got a friend of mine, and I love her. She's one of my best friends, but she lives in the past. I mean, everything is in the past, and she has a hard time moving forward. So this time it's really been tough for her. And we're so, you know, I try to look forward. I've always been that type of a person. My glass is half full. So for me, I think a lot of the stuff that's happening is exciting, and I look forward to what's next. But some aren't that way, and I have to remind myself that, you know, not everybody's like me. I have to think about those people that really have a hard time moving forward and letting go of things that once were.
So I'm thinking about, I think it was Ronald Reagan, you talk about peace through strength. He used that that phrase as a justification to, you know, build way more nuclear bombs than we actually needed. But I've often thought about that idea. What I'm hearing is a thought process that's a different process than peace, but it actually fits. I've come to the conclusion our society is not as strong as we think we are. We thought we were really strong, and all it took was a virus and masks and the need to be careful. Right.
Yeah.
All it took was, let's think about it. It's bad, but it's not as bad as it could be.
Exactly.
And it's all it took to kind of break America. It just kind of broke us.
Yeah.
And because we're not strong. So this may be a blessing in disguise, that because the brokenness is revealed, the fissures revealed, we can find true peace by actually healing and working through that. Because you can't have peace without justice. There's a psalm, righteousness and peace have kissed. Right? You can't have one that, for it to be true blessingness, you have to have righteousness and peace, justice and peace. And you can't have peace until you've actually dealt with the things that are broken.
Yeah.
I think that's, all of this could be good for us in the long term. When you have the crisis, 2020 will be the year of the fever. But maybe eventually the fever will break and the patient will get better, and you'll have peace.
And you can think of that as like globally America in our families,
Right.
you know, and then down to in our
Here.
own beings.
And
Or
you're
maybe it
forced.
starts in your own beings and it works out.
Well, and you're forced. It's almost forced you to have to come to that conclusion, or you live in the past, miserable, depressed, scared,
Angry.
mad, angry, bitter. You know, you have two choices there. So
I agree.